Okay, Daniel, over to you.
Okay, ma. Thank you, ma. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the participants present, to our hosts, our mentor, and the guests' mentors. Good evening. My name is Daniel Akinwale, and I'm one of the mentees, and will be anchoring today's session. As our host has actually stated, this program is being recorded and is actually streamlined online, so people can also join us on different social media platforms. First, this is the Jiipcc Mentorship and Internship Program for law students, young lawyers, and IP enthusiasts across Africa. Here, mentees are afforded the opportunity to access valuable IP advice, training, network, mentorship, internship, discussion forums, industry updates, and resource materials from experienced IP mentors. This program seeks to encourage continuous IP training, development, evolution in Nigeria, Africa, and the world at large. Our hashtag for the mentorship session is JIIPCCMIP. So you can find us on social media. The objectives of this program are to provide easy access to IP guidance, training, and resource materials for students, young lawyers, and IP enthusiasts in Africa, to facilitate dialogue and network among experienced and less experienced IP practitioners and stakeholders, to transform mentees into IP mentors and leaders for the next generation of mentees. And finally, to facilitate further IP mentorship, training, scholarship, and IP-related job placement for mentees. Without further ado, I would proceed to read the profile of our guest mentors. First, we have Ina Arome. Okay, I'll proceed to read that of Ina Arome. Ina Arome obtained her LLB in 2010 and her LLM in International Commercial Law in 2012 from the University of Buckingham. She was called to the Nigerian Bar in 2012. She's a senior associate in Aluko and Oyebode, one of the largest integrated law firms in Nigeria. She leads the firm's fintech practice, and she's a core member of the technology, media, and telecommunication practice. Our practice focuses on all areas of corporate and commercial law. She has significant experience advising companies ranging from early stage companies to established multinational corporations in financial services, telecommunications, media, and technology sectors on their various cutting edge technology offerings and services. Our second guest mentor for today's insightful and incisive session is Senator Ihenyen. Senator Ihenyen is a lead partner in Fusion Lawyers. He heads the blockchain practice and the IP and technology practice of the virtual law firm. I would say maybe possibly the first virtual law firm in Nigeria. He advises both local and global companies in various areas of law, including emerging technologies such as blockchain. He's a tech lawyer with interest in policy and regulations. Senator is the president of Stakeholders in Blockchain Technology Association of Nigeria, with the acronym CBAN. He's also the current General Secretary of the Blockchain Industry Coordinating Committee of Nigeria. He is the exclusive contributor, Nigeria chapter, to the International Guide to Blockchain 2020, as well as the exclusive contributor to the Comparative Legal Guide to Data Protection 2019, the Nigerian chapter. Senator is currently the Vice Chairman, Intellectual Property Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association section on Business Law, and is a member of the Information Technology Committee. Without further ado, we welcome Ina to give us our presentation. Using I have 15 minutes. I also advise all mentees to please mute, to please put their this on mute so that we can pay our attention to our guest mentor. Please, Ina, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for your introduction, and thank you for having me on this session. I'm going to briefly discuss the legality of cryptocurrency operations in Nigeria. And it's going to be a chat. It's not going to be formal, and I would try as much as possible to make it interactive. So, and just feel free to put in your comments in the chat box so that we don't talk over each other. Does anyone here know what the status is for cryptocurrency? So now the question is cryptocurrency in Nigeria banned? So yes or no? If you can just put your comments in the chat box and I'll just have an idea of what your take is. So the question is cryptocurrency in Nigeria banned? Is it prohibited? Yes, so Lauren says no, Rebecca says no. Okay, so nice. So I think I have an idea of everyone's like how they like their sense of cryptocurrency. Yes, so you're correct. Cryptocurrency is banned in Nigeria, and the issue with cryptocurrency in Nigeria is the central bank's position on processing cryptocurrency in Nigeria. And we've had clients in my firm over the years ask us questions like, is cryptocurrency allowed in Nigeria? Like processing of cryptocurrencies. And we say, yes, it's allowed, but you know, the CBN has its position. And I'm just going to quickly highlight what those positions have been over the years. And if you, please feel free to put your questions in the chat box so that once I'm done, I can take your questions. So in 2017, the CBN had concerns over cryptocurrencies that were traded on exchange platforms that went through the authorized banking channels. Now, the CBN is the apex regulator for the banking industry in Nigeria. So the CBN has the powers to control what goes on within the system. So the CBN advised the banks and financial institutions that, you know, this is cryptocurrencies, this is nature of cryptocurrencies. And when you're dealing with cryptocurrency, make sure that you don't trade or hold or transact in cryptocurrencies. You should ensure that you comply with existing anti-money laundering regulations and controls when you're vetting or doing your KYC checks or some of these transactions. And if you're not satisfied with your checks, you should discontinue immediately, and you should report any suspicious transactions to the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit. So the CBN sort of advised the banks on how to go about cryptocurrency operations. And over the years, CBN just highlighted, like reiterated its stance. And then in 2021, this year, as you all know, the CBN issued its circular to its banks and financial institutions not to deal with cryptocurrencies. They shouldn't process any cryptocurrency transactions. And if they do, they would be sanctioned, and they should close all accounts that were used for cryptocurrency transactions. I mean, I know some people who were like country managers or worked in cryptocurrency exchanges that had their bank accounts closed because of this. So, I mean, the CBN put its feet down and said, no more transactions, no more processing of cryptocurrency transactions. And then SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, was never open to the idea of cryptocurrency, but surprisingly last year, they said they were going to regulate crypto assets. And because of the CBN's position, they came back and said that, it can't work. So we're just going to put a hold on our proposed crypto assets regulation. And we recently had, my firm organized a cryptocurrency webinar where we had an official of the SEC, and he provided further clarification that the reason why the SEC had to put a hold on its proposed regulation was because these regulators, which are the SEC and the CBN, can't work in silos, because at the end of the day, you would always need a bank account to operate, to like manage your securities and make transactions. So if the CBN has prohibited cryptocurrency transactions, they can't have their regulation enforced. So they had to work together. And that is the current regime for cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are not banned, but the processing of cryptocurrencies by banks and financial institutions is now prohibited. And I don't know if you have read the news lately, but the CBN has mentioned that it's going to introduce its digital naira. Basically, what that is provide an electronic form of the naira. And they've also clarified that it's not going to be an avenue for other cryptocurrencies to thrive within the banking sector. So the prohibition on processing of other cryptocurrencies will still hold. The question is, does that change the value of the naira? We don't know. Let's see how it goes. And so I guess what the CBN is trying to do is sort of catch up with international players. But what international players like the US is doing is sort of having stakeholder engagement, in fact, public engagement with the citizens on the benefits of having a digital dollar. I don't think the CBN has done that. Let's watch the space and see what happens. And I mean, the question is, are the CBN's fears about banning cryptocurrency legitimate? Well, the fears are legitimate, but then the question is, would a prohibition solve the issue? If you look at, if you read reports, the issues why, the main reasons why governments have issues with regulating cryptocurrencies because they're afraid of losing power. Every country runs by its government to have economic control. And the government accepts only its currency. So decentralized cryptocurrencies would seem a threat for countries as central banks would see their powers over legal currencies vanished by virtual currency. And the whole issue about illegal activities, I mean, at the end of the day, these fears can only be overcome if you develop better laws to control regulation of cryptocurrency. South Africa is an example. I mean, I've spoken to some South African lawyers who have said that their current regulation is so wide enough to consider or take into consideration any new technology, such as blockchain, a cryptocurrency. And what that means is that their AML, CFT and KYC checks are so broad that they can be able to process cryptocurrency transactions. I mean, even the European Union has identified that these criminal activities and legal loopholes surrounding cryptocurrencies is the reason why it needs to be regulated on a global level. And so what has the effect of cryptocurrency done? We've had, before the circular issued by CBN, we're advising some clients on cryptocurrency transactions, and those transactions had to be stalled because of the prohibition. So what has that done? that has had an effect of investment flows into the country. Global investors are beginning to heavily eye on cryptocurrency space. So I don't know if you know, but Jay-Z and Jack Dorsey announced an investment to fund Bitcoin development in Africa. JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Visa have shown a growing interest in cryptocurrency. Now, these are good news, but Nigeria is the largest consuming market in Africa. And if you ban cryptocurrency transactions, it has limited the potential investment inflows that would boost our economic growth. And also the effect is that there's a shadow economy. So the peer-to-peer means is now what is in effect, and it could also increase chances of money laundering and illicit economy in Nigeria. I mean, and also when you talk of blockchain as a whole, cryptocurrency is just a subset, and the ripple effect is that most times, I think blockchain would depend, technology would rely on cryptocurrency as a source of payment. So if the tech regulator, which is the National Information Technology Development Agency, has a blockchain policy and is trying to promote blockchain technology in Nigeria, it will not really make sense if there's blockchain technology and that blockchain technology does not really make provision for cryptocurrency. So I guess issues are the downside about Nigerian regulatory framework is that regulators tend to work in silos. We don't really speak to each other. So having a holistic approach to regulation of blockchain may bring about a proper regulation of cryptocurrency if the government will consider it in future. So I've sort of summarized what the landscape is for cryptocurrency operations in Nigeria. Yes, so there's a question. Okay, so no question. Does anyone have a question, or is anything unclear?
Yeah, I think if anyone has a question, I think the person should just ask.
Okay, I think that we'll just go with people and then we'll call on Senator. So Rebecca, you can ask your question.
I have a question. Yes, thank you, Mrs. Aina, for the presentation. Good evening, Mrs. Juliana. So I have a question, which is I would say is also a concern. It's a personal concern for me, particularly when it comes to blockchain technology in general, but specifically on cryptocurrency, because that's what your presentation majored on. And it is the fact that it is not a properly regulated industry. Okay, it's not properly regulated. And especially for a country like Nigeria, where we are not so technologically advanced. I think you highlighted the government's concern in banning cryptocurrency transactions. And although it's not we wouldn't say it's a very good move, considering the economic impact, but it's an understandable move. So my question is this: without those regulations in place at the moment and non-foreseeable in the nearest future, would you, in your opinion, say it is advisable for Nigeria, both as a country and individuals, to heavily invest in blockchain technology, or rather to make their businesses or their services blockchain dependent? For example, legal practice, which is becoming a rather popular opinion, that the legal practice should consider using blockchain technology for the various purposes, especially intellectual property. So for a country like Nigeria, considering that blockchain is not properly regulated worldwide, then specifically in Nigeria, would you advise that we really key into this at this point?
Okay, so I mean, investment.
Can we just come in. Please, can we take the next two questions together so that she can answer them together?
So
Uh,
what are some of the measures put in
Yes.
place to protect people who make cryptocurrency since there's no law regulating it? Okay, so I mean, Nigerian government has said that if you deal with cryptocurrency, you do it as your own sole risk. So it's a sole venture. There's nothing in law to protect you. I can't really give advice on what measures you put in place, because at the end of the day, your measures should be legal, except you transact with someone that you know, right? But I mean, if the law has said there's no legal recourse, there isn't any protection, then it's as your own sole risk. I would advise maybe you transact with maybe foreign cryptocurrencies. I don't know if that's good advice, but I mean, right now there isn't any protection in Nigeria, so you do so at your own sole risk. And I guess you just ensuring that the crypto exchange you process with does its own KYC checks, because I am aware that some of these exchanges take further steps in doing AML CFT checks and KYC checks. So you should transact through a reputable exchange. So there's a question: what are the alternative channels available that can be used in processing? Okay, so I mean, that will be peer-to-peer, and so that'll be peer-to-peer. There isn't, you have to do it like, it has to be a shadow economy. Because of the prohibition, you can't do it through financial institutions, which is why I said you need to make sure that you take additional steps to process through a reputable exchange. Says, I understand that blockchain goes beyond financial services. Do you think Nigeria will make use of other uses, saying that cryptocurrency is not encouraged by the government? Yes, so I think we Nigerians, especially the youth, who are very exposed, we don't play catch up. Yes, and the NIDA is trying to promote blockchain technology in Nigeria. A policy has been issued, but there isn't any current law. To the extent that nothing prohibits blockchain technology, you can explore blockchain technology, but just make sure that if you enter into contracts, you ensure that you review those contracts as a lawyer, or you get a lawyer to review your contracts, your terms and conditions, and the privacy policy. It's very important. So to the extent that nothing prohibits blockchain technology in Nigeria, save for cryptocurrency operations, it's safe to use. I think sorry, do you remember the question that Rebecca asked? I forgot, sorry.
Okay, I think.
Please, you can just.
Rebecca, please, can you unmute and ask a question again?
Sorry,
please?
Rebecca, I missed it answering the other questions.
Rebecca, please, can you unmute and ask your question?
No problem,
Thank
no
you.
problem. I'll just recount. So my question was, I'll summarize this time. Considering the fact that blockchain technology is not properly regulated, or yes, it's decentralized, not properly regulated, and Nigeria as a country is not so technologically advanced, would you advise that professionals or businesses actually at this point key into using blockchain technology? I mean, considering the fact right now that there is no regulation in Nigeria, aside the fact that blockchain technology on its own is deregulated, specifically in Nigeria.
Okay, thank you. So that just same question, the last question. Yes, so to the extent that blockchain technology is not prohibited, it's been encouraged by a policy of the NIDA. You can venture into blockchain, but I would always advise that you weigh your pros and cons. Is it something that your clients would understand? And is it something, so basically you need to understand your target market. if it will affect any engagement with your target market and whether it's realistic in your own environment. But to the extent that it's not prohibited, you can. And yes, Folarin, interesting, no regulation is a regulation. Yes, so because we've seen that governments around the world have sort of they've chosen how to regulate. So and I'm sorry I've taken a lot of time, but they either regulate by developing their laws, by restricting their laws, or by total ban. So yes, in Nigeria, yes. So prohibition is a regulation, and it's yes. So it's a play on words, yeah. Yes. So
Wow.
I'm sorry I have to go now because I have a meeting now. But it was nice chatting with you. Please
Thank you
feel
very
free to send me questions, and I'm always available if you have any questions. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, Ina, for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the sacrifice, and thank you for coming to share knowledge with us. We actually wish that you could stay longer, but we know that you have another meeting to attend. So Senator will be
Yeah.
taking over, and we know that he would do an amazing job also. So if you have any question, once he's done, you can also ask your questions. Thank you very much, Ina.
Thank you. Hello, Senator. Thank you.
Hello, yeah, good to see
How
you.
are
Yeah,
you? Good to
thank
see
you.
you. All
I
right.
was, I was, I was hoping you were gonna stay longer so that I can
I'm
also
sorry. I
jump
even
into
took your
another
time.
meeting.
So,
No,
sorry.
it's a 7 meeting I have in the next 15, 20 minutes.
Sorry. Sorry.
All
Thank
right
you.
then.
Take
Yeah.
care.
All
Thank
right
you. Bye
then. Take
bye.
care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Ma.
Thank you so
So
much, sir, for
we
joining us here.
All right then. Thank you. So I'll just wait
thank you.
for Juliana to go ahead.
Okay,
Okay.
yes, sir. You can go ahead. We already read out your profile.
Okay.
Uh, so you can go ahead. There are still some questions coming in, so you can answer them, and you can also give your own presentation. And if there are more questions, you can also ask.
All right then. All right.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming.
Yes. Yeah. My esteemed regards to everyone here. My name is Senator Ihenyen. I'm delighted to be here. I have to say that I have a lot of calls on the side regarding another meeting that is loading, but I will try to be as focused as possible here. So when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrencies, a lot of people ask me, what is that all about and all that. Ina already introduced the blockchain cryptocurrency space in Nigeria and the landscape. But I would like to just say from a lawyer point of view, or knowing that I'm speaking with mentees, perhaps what we would like to hear is not so much of jargons around what blockchain is and all that, but how perhaps you could get started with blockchain and cryptocurrencies. For me, for instance, back in 2016, when I discovered for the first time the blockchain technology and how it works, it was not until 2017 when I set up my law firm, Infusion Lawyers, that I took more professional interest in blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And I remember at the Infusion Lawyers then, the lawyer we had who was our associate, who was in charge of blockchain and virtual assets or crypto issues, was Faith Obafemi. Some of you might know her already. You know, she was one of our associates then. I was more of the supervisory partner, but I didn't get my hands on the podium until later on in 2017 when I had to also, do some work in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. And how did I get here as a blockchain and cryptocurrency lawyer? Basically, when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrency, people who play in this space are people who are trying to innovate a new decentralized economy. And when I say decentralized economy, think of it as an economy that is people driven, not this one that is driven by a central authority, such as the central bank or the Nigerian government and all that. This time you're looking at a real democracy, but this time the democracy is not run on on those Nigerian constitution and those laws that you know about, but more of mathematics, more of codes. So when you talk about blockchain, I like to always say that the best way to understand blockchain is to see it as the third generation internet. What do I mean by that? When a lot of people hear about internet, think of it when the internet started, especially in the 80s down to the 90s, was mainly publishing and all that. You could only publish or read something on the internet. There was no Facebook. That was Internet 1.0. Then we moved to Internet 2.0, which was more of the emailing and social networking. Right now, we talk about Internet 3.0. And what's that all about? You are no longer talking about just communication anymore. With the blockchain technology, you are talking about how you can use the internet to exchange or trade or save or store value. And that's a completely new stuff. I tell you why. Because for the first time in the history of man, it's not all about just sending a message or chatting on Facebook. It is now also about how do you send money? How do you send interest in your real estate company, your real estate assets, or how you sell or trade your intellectual property over the internet? It's never been done before. So that's what the blockchain has come to do. And when you look at the application of the blockchain, it cuts across various industries. A lot of people are more familiar with the financial services industry. Not surprising, because the very first application of blockchain is Bitcoin. A lot of us must have heard about Bitcoin, the one that was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto. No one knows if Satoshi Nakamoto is a woman, a man, a group, or an organization, but it's an anonymous person who created Bitcoin, the first ever cryptocurrency out there. And Bitcoin was invented for the purpose of ensuring a new digital currency that is global in nature, that is borderless, that is not owned or regulated by any central bank anywhere. It's not printed. It's just a currency of the people. And so this is what Bitcoin is all about. And if you talk about regulating Bitcoin and all of that, you have to start thinking about, how do we regulate this? Is it legal tender? Is it crypto assets? Is it, what's it called, security? Is it utility token? Is it a derivative? These are the issues, these are the questions. And as lawyers, what we do in the space is try to provide some kind of guidance to innovators, first of all, people who create these cryptocurrencies. How do you guide them as a lawyer to ensure they're on the right track, especially at the time when there is no regulation in the space? And let's be careful about when we say there is no regulation in the space. There's no regulation does not mean there's nothing at all on ground. What that means is that there is no specific regulation on cryptocurrencies or blockchain. Rather, what we have is that we seem to be applying existing laws on things like money laundering, terrorism, what's it called? Know your money, know your customer policies, and combating financing and terrorism. All of that, those laws, those are what we have on ground. We're yet to really have specific legislations on cryptocurrencies and digital assets generally. I am aware that the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, is very interested in regulating digital assets in Nigeria. And when I say digital assets, I mean 4 things specifically: cryptocurrencies or crypto assets like Bitcoin, security tokens, utility tokens, and derivatives. But just like Ina was saying earlier, because of the love letter by the Central Bank of Nigeria, a few days to February 14 this year, to all banks in Nigeria, banning cryptocurrencies in Nigeria's banking and financial system, the SEC had to freeze its plans regarding regulating cryptocurrencies and digital assets generally. So this is what the picture is in Nigeria. And of course, some of you might know that I am the president of the Stakeholders in Blockchain Technology Association of Nigeria. And what we do in CBAN is to ensure that in the absence of regulation by regulators, innovators themselves can come together, work together to regulate themselves. That's what self-regulation means. And it's usually foreign in this part of the world because people expect that when it comes to regulation, it has to be a government body, it has to be SEC, it has to be CBN. But in the decentralized economy, a lot of things are happening. And one of it is called self-regulation. If you go to Japan, Singapore, some of these very Asian countries, and even in the UK, there's what you call self-regulation, where participants in the ecosystem decide to come together as a body to regulate themselves while also working collaboratively with regulators. So if you're a lawyer or a law student, or even outside the legal industry, maybe you're more into compliance and all of that, and you are interested in blockchain technology, the first thing to do is to try to see or understand the various applications of blockchain technology, not just in the financial services industry, but across other industries. Real estate, for instance, agriculture, legal industry as well, various industries, health as well. You know, if you put all these industries together, we have seen the successful application of crypto, of blockchain in these industries. And those things come with risk and opportunities. As a lawyer, what you want to do is to minimize the risk for your clients and maximize the opportunities. And I add the blockchain practice of infusion lawyers, where we get to advise or provide guidance, especially legal and regulatory guidance to clients, both local and global. We've been very privileged to work with some of the biggest exchanges in the space, trying to help them ensure that they have know your customer and anti-money laundering policies running on their platform, so that they can minimize illegality and all those illicit transactions on their platform. Away from that, we also do other work that's go more into policy and regulatory guidance. Of course, because of my position in the space, I'm able to always we are able to always provide proactive guidance to clients when they are confused about things, especially when now in Nigeria there's so much uncertainty about what's the central bank going to do. Are they going to regulate cryptocurrency? Are they going to ban it forever? Is there going to be central bank digital currency? When it is introduced, how is it going to be? Especially now that the central bank, just like Ina said, has not even engaged the members of the public yet about its plans on central bank digital currencies. All of a sudden, it's all over the place that Nigeria is introducing CBDCs by the end of this year. And a lot of people are like surprised, some shocked, some pleasantly surprised. Like, really? When did they start? We didn't even know they had started. You know, if you look at other countries, it's been a process. 3 years of talking, of engaging, of researching, of interacting. But it looks like Nigeria, a lot has been going on underground, and then the result comes out. Maybe we don't have enough multi-stakeholder approach. Maybe, I'm not sure, but as the president of CBAN, I can tell you for sure that we also read it in the newspapers that the CBDCs were coming, and we don't think that's a very good thing in the space. When you belong in the space, you expect that regulators will always interact with innovators in the space. So that's what I would just like to say. I think I'll stop here so that we can get questions and I can run away. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that incisive and insightful presentation. I think we've learned a lot, a great deal. Before I call on the mentees, I think we have a mentor in the house, one of our mentor, and has always been of great, he has always been there for us. So I don't know, I think Mr. Folarin is in the building. So I don't know, maybe I'll just call on Mr. Folarin to just quickly comment and possibly make his comment on the presentation by.
You want to set me up? You want me to comment? Comment that what?
No, I'll ask a question or just make a contribution.
You said it and I just finished talking. No, I cannot comment.
Okay, just contribute rather.
My comment is no comment.
That's my error. I meant contribution.
No, I'm teasing you. I'm just teasing you. But really, I'm serious about senators. The Senate president has spoken. Siban president has spoken. Who am I to follow with some comments? You know, yeah. Senator has said everything. I'll just piggyback off of the approach to regulation in Nigeria, you know, and how we take a lazy man's approach to regulation. We don't have regulation. You know, I also don't believe. I'm of the school of thought that doesn't believe that the CBN banned cryptocurrency, you know, by that directive to banks, because you cannot ban what you don't control. What you don't control does not exist. So how do they say it? You know, you can't ban what you don't control. If you don't have jurisdiction to ban something, you cannot restrict it. So so that's on the one hand. But I do think that for the interest of development, you know, and that's why I must commend Siban, especially under the administration of Senator, for the fantastic work that they're doing. The sector must understand that for people to gain trust and for it to gain credibility, there has to be self-regulation, you know, and somebody should, the industry can come up with standards, you know, that will ensure that, you know, there's that level of trust that is necessary for it to grow smoothly exists. And again, I'll say a big thumbs up to my brother Senator for the good work he's doing. Fantastic conversation. Thank you very much, Juliana. I apologize for joining a little late. I was in another committee meeting. Thank you. Fantastic stuff, Senator. You know, I'm always loyal.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the contribution, sir.
Mr. Marx is also around. So maybe he would like to say something before we take the questions. Mr. Marx, he's actually on the road. Okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Juliana. And I'll just follow in to the line of my Oga Folarin Aluko. If a senator has spoken on the matter, I don't think there's anything more to be said. And I'll just recount a funny incident I had 2 weeks ago when I was in Ibadan. We went for the MBA section on Public Interest and Development Law Conference. So the governor of Oyo State invited us for, you know, wanted to host lawyers to a dinner at the end of the conference. And unfortunately, we got to the government house a little late. And then we heard from the protocol guys that once the governor has come into an event, no one else can go into the event. So, that the doors were now shut. So in the same vein, Senator having spoken, I don't think there's much more I can say. But well, let me just try and say something since I've been called upon. So Senator, thanks for that presentation. I didn't catch all of it, but the little I caught, I fully agree with. When I also heard the announcement that the central bank was coming out with its own digital currency, you know, I found it a little funny because and for me, the reason is, from a regulatory point of view, sending mixed signals is a very bad thing. If you want to take an approach, I think there should have been some strategy towards it. Yes, I agree with Mr. Aluko that central bank did not exactly ban cryptocurrencies. What they did, I even think, was worse. What they were saying essentially was that anybody dealing in cryptocurrency, the Nigerian banking sector should not offer them services. And I thought that was totally wrong, because it's just like going to tell banks that, look, from now henceforth, do not bank for lawyers anymore. Because cryptocurrency is not illegal. It's not made illegal by law. So until it's made illegal by law, then you could tell banks not to offer banking services to people who run cryptocurrency. Because whether I would like or not, even kidnappers still use the banking services. I've not seen CBN come out to the police to say, look, from now henceforth, if there's any money coming to your bank, ask them, is it ransom money? And if it's ransom money, do not take it into your banking system. I think money is, I think the word is agnostic. Money is just there. It's not concerned, because once money gets into the hand of a person who has imparted value for it, that money becomes clean. I mean, of course, there's a recent case of Michael Ikongbeh versus EFCC, where the EFCC had frozen his account because they said Fayose, the former governor of Ekiti State, paid legal fees to Ikongbeh out of money that was proceeds of corruption. And the court said, well, Ikongbeh worked for the money. So the moment the money left the governor, even though it was corrupt money, and got to Ikongbeh, so Ikongbeh had exchanged value for that money. Instantly, that money becomes, money actually earned for services offered. You can't, at that point, because if you trace it that way, then it means even the money people get as salary at the end of the month, you could trace it and it could be something wrong was done somewhere. So money is not exactly like that. Once a person has worked for and imparted value and money comes to him, then that money is. So I believe the CBN saying they should stop offering services to people who deal in cryptocurrencies was absolutely wrong, in as much as cryptocurrency has not been outlawed in Nigeria. And then just one last thought from from the little I know about the CBN. CBN actually started well when it came to cryptocurrencies. I remember in 2016 they had a stakeholders engagement, just to know what this whole cryptocurrency stuff was about. They brought in a lot of people. I was privileged to have been in that meeting to just ask people in the space, what is all this thing we are hearing about cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and all of that. It was quite a good engagement. They promised to set up a working group after that, but somehow that never happened. And then, we started seeing a lot of funny postures from the central bank. So I agree with Senator that, a proper multi-stakeholder approach to these things would benefit the CBN a lot. So thank you. And back to you, Juliana.
Thank you, sir. Daniel, so if you have a question, let us just take 2 questions first, then Senator can respond to them. Then if he still has time, we can take more questions. So if you have any question, please just unmute yourself and ask. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, if you have any question, Dawn, I don't know if you have any question. Maybe I should call Adetola first. I think she could not ask question in the last session. Okay, maybe Adetola, please, if you have any question, kindly unmute and ask our guest mentor. Okay.
Maybe I'll just ask a question while we're waiting for them to ask their question. So is it profitable for you, being a lawyer, working with people in the blockchain industry? Is it profitable, and would you advise those coming up in the space to also try to read up on this area?
All right, interesting question. As you know, in every business, it starts with a process, right? And whether it's profitable will always depend on what went into that process. When it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrencies, forget about all of the $60,000 per Bitcoin stuff you read out there. The main thing is, as a lawyer or professional in the space, you need the right structures, you need the right team, you need the right competence, and of course, brand and all of that to ensure that you can have a profitable business. So there is no fast one here. But has it been profitable for our firm? I would say yes. Especially in the COVID-19 period, for instance, where we've seen a lot of lawyers in Nigeria suffer so much from the negative effects of COVID-19, and then add the Johnson strike, and it's more like burial for Nigerian lawyers, which is quite sad. I think in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space, perhaps because of the global nature of digital assets of cryptocurrencies, the clients in this space, they are not usually your local kind of clients. They are usually global clients who want to play in the Nigerian markets, right? Or Nigerian clients who want to play in the global markets. So because of that global dimension to the whole thing, it usually brings up that opportunity to be more profitable compared to some other practice areas. Because while some persons might be counting profits in Naira, others are counting profits in dollar or euro. So that's it. It's a challenging and demanding yet rewarding space. You need a lot of knowledge, a lot of time. You have to just build it, and then with time, of course, the profits always comes.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for the response. I don't know if anyone has a question. Okay, Rebecca says she has a question. Rebecca, please kindly unmute yourself and ask a question.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Mr. Senator, for the presentation. Mrs. Juliana kind of touched on my question, because I've been hearing, okay, I know about blockchain technology, cryptocurrency. I have an idea. I have invested in cryptocurrency. But when it comes to engaging in it as a lawyer, I think the first time I actually heard of the legal aspects to blockchain technology was on this platform, this mentorship program. Someone gave a presentation on non-fungible tokens, and I read up on it, and I started following up on it. I found it interesting. But beyond that, I really do not. I'm wondering, how does one come into the blockchain technology practice, the legal aspects of blockchain technology? What are the opportunities? How do you go about it exactly? I'm completely lost as to how to start a career path in blockchain technology as a lawyer. What could you use it for? And if you could help with references too, I would be very grateful. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. You see, when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrency practice, I found that many people imagine that this is a different ball game entirely, that you need, different way, something totally different in terms of approach. It's not so, all right? Blockchain and cryptocurrency practice is very wide. It's very wide. It has so much of what you're already perhaps used to. So when you talk about blockchain and cryptocurrency law, you're looking at aspects such as anti-money laundering, you're looking at terrorism laws, you're looking at securities laws, investment laws, you're looking at financial services laws, all those ones from the Central Bank of Nigeria, you're looking at data protection and privacy, you're looking at so many laws. So, of course, corporate law also comes in, your share capital and all that comes in as well. So if you imagine that blockchain and cryptocurrency is something totally different from what you already do, that's where you miss it. You begin to look for something that you shouldn't be looking for. What you need to understand is that in the blockchain and crypto practice, what you're essentially doing is to de-risk or minimize the risk that your clients may face, especially in a space such as Nigeria with uncertain regulation. So precisely, at least I can give you some examples of what we've done. When a global cryptocurrencies platform or company needed to expand to Nigeria, they needed us to give them an opinion about the regulatory space. Is it safe? Should they come in? If they come, how do they minimize their risk and all that? We presented a legal opinion. Of course, we charge for that. And then when they come in, they want to incorporate a company. It is the same corporate law practice that everyone knows about, that you still apply there. You have to, it's just that the only different thing is to now know, okay, the memo should be this way, the articles of association will be this way, because we're now looking at a cryptocurrency exchange or a digital service exchange. So that's it. Another firm, a crypto exchange, which is very known out there, worked with us sometime in, I think, June last year, down to the end of the year last year. They wanted us to keep advising them on KYC and AML compliance. All right. Recently, a fintech company going into the cryptocurrency space needed us to also provide some guidance regarding how to approach the cryptocurrency market in Nigeria, and then provide policy and regulatory guidance. So you see, and all of this stuff, of course, you have to charge, whether on a retainer, whether on a one-off service. You just have to, of course, know this is time to charge. So it's not out of this world, like it's completely different, right? It's just it subsumes many of the other legal practices that you already might be involved in. So think about compliance, think about corporate law services, think about financial laws in the country, banking and financial services. And of course, it depends on the sector that your client is going into. What is key is that you need to understand the business your client is into. You need to be able to speak in the language your client understands. So some clients, they don't care about cryptocurrencies. They want to apply blockchain in the health sector. It means you have to know a lot of the laws in the health sector. You need to know how data protection regulation comes in the law sector. So you see, I believe that this picture already gives you a very good picture of how things work in the blockchain and crypto space. I hope this helps, Rebecca.
Okay,
yes, it helps a lot. Thank you, sir.
All right, then.
Understanding.
Thank you so much. So I think we have a question in the chat box. I don't know if you would be obliged to take the question.
Okay, says, okay, you talked about the blockchain. You want to read it out? Okay, all right, I'll wait.
I should read it out, okay. I think Aditola is asking here that you spoke about the blockchain technology in regards, or as regards to agriculture, financial sector, and real estate, but could you shed more light on the real estate aspects as regards to blockchain technology?
All right. At the start of this lecture, I think I mentioned that the best way to understand blockchain technology is to see it as a third generation internet. The reason for that is that beyond being able to communicate using the internet, the blockchain is bringing something new to the table, which is beyond communication, you can now trade or transfer anything of value. And when I say anything of value, you're looking at things like digital identity, digital currency, even your votes, those INEC votes that you've not been believing or relying on 100%. Think about securities, intellectual property. All these things can now be transferred, online. Now, how does that apply to real estate? There's what is called tokenization in the blockchain space. Tokenization. Tokenization simply means you are representing in digital form, all right, a physical asset. So think about a real estate, say a land in Banana Islands. I don't know why I like Banana Island so much. A land in Banana Island, that's your physical assets. Now, with the help of the blockchain, through tokenization, you can transfer or convert all that physical assets, being Banana Island, into a digital form, all right? So it means that you have now been able to tokenize your ownership. All right, you've been able to tokenize that physical land assets. You've been able to tokenize it by moving it into the blockchain. How? In the real estate sector, there are different ways blockchain is being used. In terms of tokenization, rather than say, what's his name now, Daniel, we need you to come and buy this land in Banana Islands. It's 1 billion naira. You're like, what? I don't have that money. Right? People now tokenize and say this land is worth 1 billion, but we've been able to break it into tokens or shares in such a way that Daniel would not need to produce 1 billion naira to have ownership of that asset. Daniel can bring 1 naira to the table, and that 1 naira might be worth a token. You could call it banana coin, and that's a token. Once you have that token, that means that you now have ownership of a part of that land that ordinarily you would not have been able to get. And this is not science fiction. In places like Dubai, in places like Switzerland, they're already tokenizing landed assets in a way that anyone can participate in a democratic manner. It's open, it's peer-to-peer. Another way real estate, when you talk about blockchain in real estate, land registry. I'm not sure, but maybe Folarin and Max would know better. I read somewhere that up to 70% of cases in court today, they are land associated issues, land ownership, title to land, and all those things. And you have an average of 10 years or even more trying to resolve disputes in that area. So I know a company in Ghana that is into land registry using blockchain. So people are able to register ownership or titles on a blockchain rather than relying on that archaic system. Some of our own land registry system here is still even manual. It's still manual. It's not even digitized. Now, people have moved away from digitization to blockchain and say, okay, this is the owner of this land. And you know what? One beautiful thing about blockchain, you can trace. You can see, okay, it is Max's grandfather that owned this land in Benue State in 1960. Max's grandfather transferred this land to Daniel in 1962. You will see everything live. You don't need to bribe anyone and get involved in all those corrupt practices, trying to know who is who. Before you know, Omonile will come and take all of your money away. So that's real estate. And there's a lot in that area. There's a lot. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the very insightful. I don't know if I should crave your indulgence, but I'm still going to crave your indulgence. I know you've actually taken your time, and we've taken your time too. You've taken your time, we have taken your time as well. But I just want to ask this question.
Okay.
So what is, if you expatiate in a few seconds, what is a non-fungible token? I hope I got the pronunciation correctly.
Yes, you got it right. Non-fungible tokens. They are called NFTs, right? The best way to understand NFTs is to start from what you understand. A lot of us understand JPEG, right? JPEG. When I say JPEG, you already think about an image, all right? Stored in JPEG format. There's also PNG format, right? It's also about the image. Now, NFT is more like JPEG and PNG as well. Just that this time, the format is not for your normal internet format. This format is now for the blockchain. It's optimized for the blockchain. So a non-fungible token is an asset, right? That is not fungible. What do I mean by fungible? You cannot, okay, see, I have 1 naira here, or perhaps I have 10 naira here, you have 10 naira there, right? If I take your 10 naira and give you my own 10 naira, you will still accept it, right? Because it's still the same 10 naira. That's fungibility. It's fungible. It means that naira is fungible, dollar is fungible, right? But NFTs are not fungible because they are unique. Every NFT is unique. You can't replace one NFT and say, okay, take this NFT is the same as mine. No, except the creator created up to, say, more than one of an NFT. Fine. But most times NFTs are unique. They are just one. So that's why they are more like priceless. You must have heard that Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, his tweets, his first ever tweet ever on that platform on Twitter was sold for, I think, about $60,000. That's crazy. So what can NFTs do? NFTs can enable creators such as creative people, artists, poets, painters, all of these people, musicians, to be able to monetize their assets by converting their assets to NFTs. And then they will now be able to sell to you and me. And you know how the art space is. There's no intrinsic value in the art space. You cannot shoot anyone for buying a Robert Picasso painting for $100,000. What you buy $100,000, I might buy 10,000 naira. So it really depends. There's a lot of emotion in the art space, and that's what NFT is enabling right now. It's allowing artists to be able to sell more, get more value for their intellectual work and all of that. Now, I will not say more than that. I see I've taken a lot of time already.
Thank you so much, sir. We are so much grateful and blessed to have you here and to partake and participate in your wealth of
Thank you.
experience and knowledge. Thank you so much, Max. Thank you
You're
so much,
welcome.
Sarada.
Thank you
I don't know
so
if
much.
there's anyone.
I know that you'll be leaving soon, but I just really want to say thank you. And the way you even smile to explain this thing, like it's so nice. Now I feel like I already know it, and just because of your smile, from the beginning of the presentation to the end, you are smiling like, oh my God, like come into this space, come into this space. It's so nice. Thank you so much.
It's all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a lovely weekend, sir.
I will. I will. You too. It's a delight to be here. And regards to everyone on the Jiipcc platform, I encourage everyone to keep taking advantage of this platform. It's lovely. I will ensure I share the YouTube video everywhere. And I want to encourage everyone to also do so. Thank you. Max and for Larry, thanks for your audience as well. Good night.
Very much, sir. Good night.
It's a nice one.
All right.
Thanks, Senator.
Okay, so we'll proceed to our presentation. I'll be calling my fellow mentees to present. Please, we just have 5 minutes for our presentations. I'll start with Dawn. Please, Dawn, kindly unmute yourself and make your presentation. You just have 5 minutes. And if possible, also share your screen, your presentation. Thank you. Dawn, please, over to you, Dawn. You have the floor. Okay, if Dawn is not ready, can Sewese kindly step in to present? Sewese, please, can you unmute?
We have Sewese and we have Rebecca to present
Yes,
today. Any of you can just start. Thank you.
Okay, just any of you can start.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. But I think your
Hello?
record
All
is,
right.
we can hear you, but I think your audio is fluctuating.
Okay, please just let me know when you can hear me.
Okay. We can hear you loud and clear. Kindly present.
All right, thank you. Okay, my report is on protecting intellectual property at the workplace. I'm trying to share my screen. Okay, I'll just continue while I try to share my screen. So, exposing intellectual property assets in the workplace, employees are always exposed to IP assets, and most times the issue of who owns what, the issue of ownership comes in, and sometimes employers fail to put in measures to protect their IP or to employees as to the ownership of IPs created at their workplaces. So that's what this report is just basically about. And there's a general understanding that employers are entitled to all intellectual property created for their business, except or unless there is a contract stating otherwise. So, and we know that most businesses, especially the ones we have coming up these days, creative businesses, they are sustained by their intellectual property assets. So this is one area that is very important for them. Media companies, for example, they require their employees to acknowledge that anything written or created during their time of employment belongs to the business and not the individual. But sometimes when the reverse is the case, there's usually a contract entered or an understanding between the employer and the employees. And some of the strategies that can be put in place or that can be put in place to protect IP assets at the workplace is intellectual property right clauses in employment contracts. Now we see that a lot of employment, the normal thing is that when a person starts working at a place, he's usually given an employment contract to sign, and also these clauses are supposed to be inserted in this contract to protect the employer and the employee. So some of these clauses include ownership and assignment clause. So it tells you who owns what and then who can assign and the extent to which they can assign these rights. And then we have the confidentiality and non-disclosure. So when an employee creates an IP, an asset or intellectual property work at a workplace, sometimes he enters into an agreement with the company not to disclose that he is the owner or that asset just belongs to that company. So we don't need a direct information on the exact person that's actually created that work. And then we can also have non-compete clauses. So these are some of the few clauses I have outlined in my report that can be used to protect IP assets created at the workplace, and is always advisable for potential employers to include these in their contract during the course of employment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll just like to call our mentor, Mr.
Sorry, Mr. Daniel, I think we should just take the other presentations so that we
Okay,
can just answer them together.
okay,
Thank you.
ma'am. So we just took, okay, ma'am. So I don't know whoever is ready to present. So we say or Editola, please. Kindly unmute and make a presentation. And also try to share your screen.
Rebecca.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, my name is Sewese Yaji, and I'm presenting on intellectual property and advertising. Okay, so I'll briefly go to the meaning of advertising or advertisement. So advertising is a promotional activity aimed at selling products and services to a target audience. So modern advertising trends require businesses to attract potential customers via various means like using billboards, radio, television commercials, text messages, emails, internet banners, and much more. So however, with the process of advertising, IP issues may also arise with regards to exclusive rights of advertisers, and as well as the dangers or risk of infringing on IP rights of others. So I'll go ahead to look at the advertising elements that can be associated with IP rights. So we have rights like advertising elements like creative content, slogans and sounds, signs, geographical indications, computer generated ideas, website techniques, that's a means of doing packaging, and so much more. So for want of time, I'm not going to maybe explain all this, but those are the elements that can be associated with IP rights. And then under these various elements, they are all associated with the various IP rights like copyrights, trademarks, patents, and industrial designs, and so much more. Okay, so we'll also go to look at the various approaches or strategies we can use to protect these rights. So in order to protect the various IP rights already identified, a lot of appropriate strategies need to be put in place. So one of those strategies is copyright registration. So this will involve registering the advert or other copyright protected materials with the National Copyright Office or other agencies applicable depending on the country. Then we also have copyright notice. So this will require alerting the public about the advertising material used, and then to also make them aware that it's legally protected by the relevant copyright laws. Then also one other strategy could also be trademark registration. Then we also have registering trademarks as domain names. Then one other strategy could also be consistent and proper use of trademarks. So these are the various strategies that can be used to protect IP rights with regards to advertising. Patent application is also one of them. Then also inadvertent disclosure of trade secrets. Preventing inadvertent disclosure of trade secrets is also one of them. So in advertising, we can use any of these already listed to protect the IP rights, to ensure that we're not infringing on, business owners are not infringing on the rights of others, and also at the same time, they are able to protect their contents as well. So in conclusion, I'd like to conclude that on advertising. So across the globe, we have various laws, national and international laws, that have been put in place to regulate advertisements and also protect the rights associated with it. And in order to do this, we must also include auditing of these IP rights. Agencies must also include auditing of these IP rights. And then advertisers must also ensure that they are fully knowledgeable of the various laws as applicable in the country of operation, and then also go further to protect their IP rights to avoid costly mistakes that will lead to loss or liability for infringement. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Cerise, for the presentation. I want to call on Rebecca rather to make a presentation. Please, can you make a presentation? You have 5 minutes, and also try to share your screen.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. I'm trying to share my screen now, so I can proceed with my presentation. Sorry for the delay. Okay, let me begin while I'm trying to get documents. So my presentation is on IP-related matters in skits production of skits on the internet and social media generally. So production and distribution of skit content on the social media platform has become quite popular, especially on platforms like Facebook and Instagram, because of their entertaining nature primarily. And we see more and more entertainers and creators going into this form of entertainment because it sells faster. Okay, we are normally quickly drawn to what makes us happy or what makes us laugh. So the use of skits, or the consumption of skits rather, is becoming quite popular in Nigeria today. And my discourse is not just on whether the producers and writers of skits have an intellectual property. Of course, we could say that they do have intellectual property over their work, but my consideration is whether there is a violation of intellectual property of others, of other creators. Well, sorry, I'm still trying to get my screen not working. So whether there's a violation of the intellectual property rights of other creators in their skit production. Now, my writing is focused on Section 5 of the Copyright Act that has to do with the use of sound recording and images from pre-recorded works such as a movie. And if we notice, most of these skits, they make use of clips from movies, they make use of clips from songs, they make use of characters, they make use of sounds, they even make use of sound recordings from other skits, other comedian skits. So I figured that it's something to talk about, because we don't hear anybody coming out to complain about IP violation, that okay, this particular comedian, this particular skit maker violated my intellectual property rights that I have over this movie that I've produced, or over this song, or over this sound or clip. There is nothing like that. I think that it's because we have a general understanding that, okay, they are not selling their skits, so they are not making money, and it's just a few minutes video, 5 minutes. But in my opinion, I think it just goes to show how much of an inaccurate understanding we have of intellectual property rights. I mean, creators, I mean entertainers, because the use, according to Section 5 of the Copyright Act of Nigeria, the use of sound recordings and the use of video clips belonging to another person or from another work, another original work, amounts to a violation of intellectual property. So put this together and our general understanding of intellectual property, we find that majority of skits are a violation of people's IP rights, because there are no acknowledgements, no credit is given. And I would like to believe that most of these producers or most of these entertainers do not obtain license or permission of whatsoever sort. And we know that for a claim of intellectual property violation to succeed, there must be the requirement that the person who supposedly violated the IP rights is getting some economic gain. Okay, especially when it comes to rights of reproduction and the rest of it, that there is some economic gain. And we find that most of these skit makers are actually having financial and economic gains from their work, because aside the status they now obtain on Instagram, recognition on Instagram, which brings endorsement deals for them, download rates on YouTube is economic gain. Popularity, brand expansion is economic gain. Traffic to their page on Instagram translates one way or another to some sort of economic gain. So I think that requirement is already fulfilled. And then, like I pointed out in my report, that a likely defense to this would be the defense of parody. That okay, it's a funny clip. It may qualify as parody and the rest. But my reply understanding of that is, it does not qualify as parody, because what parody entails is that the work, for a work to qualify for defense of parodies, must be a mockery of the original work. So while these skits are comedic in nature, they are not a direct mockery of the original work. No, they are just excerpts, rather, use of excerpts from a previous work, and used to increase the appeal of their own work, to make their own work look funny. So they are not mocking the old work in any way. They're just using those clips to make their work funny. So for me, I think that it is both unfair. It's both unfair. It is a violation of intellectual property, and it's illegal, improper, and the violation of the Copyright Act for skit makers, both the writers, the owners of the skit series, and the producers particularly, because I'm sure those who write the skits are different from those who produce it. The producers using sound recordings and movie clips, it's an outright violation of intellectual property rights. And I believe it is time for movie producers and sound recorders to start enforcing their rights. When it comes to full movies, we get complaints here and there, however not popular, but there are complaints here and there of IP violation. But I've not heard of any when it comes to skits. Everybody just laughs over them. So I think this is one area that movie producers, song producers, sound producers, people who have intellectual property in this area need to pay attention to and curb this excessive violation, in my opinion. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca, for the presentation, and thank you to my fellow mentees for the insightful presentation, very instructive and indicative. I would like to call on our mentor, Mr. Marx, to please kindly comment on all the presentations. So over to you, Mr. Marx.
Yeah, thank you very much, Daniel, for your wonderful moderation of this session. I'm really enjoying it, and I think I love this format, Juliana. I believe we should keep this going forward and have our people also speak and moderate the session. So thank you also to Don. Don spoke on IP in works created in the course of employment, and then Sewese spoke on advertising and IP, and Rebecca, I believe, spoke last on IP in skits. So I'll just make my quick comments on all the presentations. And first and foremost, I must say I really love the topics each of you have selected. These are very topical issues. These are, like I always say, the challenge you have always had with IP in Nigeria has been that for my own generation, we learned IP in abstract. So we just learned what is a trademark, what is a copyright, but sometimes applying that knowledge to industry becomes a challenge. But I love the way in the course of this mentorship program that the mentees are always speaking very topical subjects that actually display IP in action in industry. So yeah, on IP in employment, Don spoke about. Yeah, it's actually a huge challenge. And like I tell people, even if you go to law firms, even IP firms, there's no clear-cut policy on what happens to IP developed in the course of work in the firm. And I believe, I don't know if I heard that part too well, but one very tenuous distinction that we need to always make when it comes to IP created within the work environment is to look at things like, yeah, sometimes the employee who creates that IP was working independently, maybe on a personal project, but who knows, he was using funds, time, facilities granted to him by the company in developing that work. So there's going to be some issues there. Who owns that work? So this is where it becomes a little bit difficult, and this is where some cases turn not really on the law per se, but on the facts. What the facts actually establish in terms of how that work was created. So, and then of course, another example I always give people when it comes to IP work created in the course of employment is that people always forget also that when it comes to IP creation, all IP essentially, ownership can reside in multiple people depending on what each person brought to the table. So for instance, with patents, you easily have 2, 3, 4, sometimes as much as 10 people being registered as a statutory inventor for purpose of registering a patent. So I've read a lot of Apple patents on Google patents, and you always see that Steve Jobs' name is always listed as one of the inventors. Of course, we know he was more the CEO of the company. I would not have been in the lab with them experimenting and all of that. But then, because of the inputs he brings to the table, the coordination and the overall support, he will still be listed as one of the patentees. And of course, the employees also are listed as patentees. And if they happen to leave the company, then they usually work out an arrangement where they still get either a lump sum payoff for their contribution to the work or ongoing royalties. So it's always important that as IP professionals, we advise companies to not leave these things to chance, but provide a proper policy. What happens where there's a joint ownership of IP and the person leaves the employment of the firm? How would it be bought out? How would the IP be valued for the purpose of paying him off? And all those things should be properly provided. So for me, I actually lean towards joint ownership when it comes to IP created in the work environment. I always lean towards joint ownership. Yeah. So and then I move on to IP and advertising, which again is a very is a topical issue. Of course, one of the hot topics in IP and advertising is what we call comparative advertising. So, for instance, if I decide to put up a post on LinkedIn and I say we are proud to have advised JIPPC on its mentorship program, and then I put the picture of Juliana Imam. I put the logo of JIPPC, of course, because I and Juliana are friendly and in good terms. I'm sure it won't be a big deal. But imagine if I do the same for somebody who is in the same, who is competing, in the same line of business, and then indirectly, misleading, as it were, customers to believe that there's an affiliation. So that becomes an issue. So use of other people's trademark on your advertisement. How do you go about it? So somebody, for instance, repairs Toyota cars. Can he just put up the Toyota logo, which are registered trademarks, on in front of his shop, or on his website? Would that not be as if he's letting people know that, look, he has an affiliation with Toyota when he's not exactly affiliated to Toyota beyond selling Toyota spare parts? So there's a body of law which is called unfair competition, that regulates these issues. And then unfortunately in Nigeria we have the advertising board, but advertising, I think it's called APCON, that's Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria or something like that, but they've not been properly set up. In other countries we have a very robust advertising tribunal that governs all these issues, unfair competition, misleading advertisements, and all of that. But we don't exactly have that proper setup in Nigeria. I know in South Africa, for instance, they have a very good setup that regulates advertising and regulates all these things. But we are hoping that, for instance, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, would step into that role and actually enforce the unfair competition provisions they have in the law, which actually also covers the issue of comparative advertising, misleading advertising, and other forms of IP abuses within the advertising space. And then finally, talking about IP skits, I mean, it's a huge money spinner at the moment. I can't remember exactly now, but I remember seeing figures somewhere. I don't know if you guys know Mark Angel Comedy. They do comedy skits like every Friday. They're on YouTube, on Facebook, and all the social media channels. At the point, I heard that those guys were pulling in so much foreign exchange that the CBN had to actually call them to really find out, what exactly are you guys doing? I mean, I'm talking of, these guys were having over $500,000, over $500,000 coming every week into their account, and just from doing skits. So it tells you that we are no longer talking about kids play anymore. When it comes to those skits, those guys even actually at the moment are almost making more money than even the movie makers make, because I mean, for them there's so many streams of income. So for instance, with some of these skit makers, what they do is, like with Mark Angel Comedy, they make a skit that's actually an advert. So in the middle of the skit, they endorse a product. They are paid by the owners of that product. That's one stream of income. When they put that skit up on YouTube, YouTube also pays them per views of that skit. That's another level of income. Now, of course, YouTube also pays them, and then some people want to advertise specially in the course of their skit or before or after their skit on YouTube. There's also some stream of income they get from that as well. So it's huge business. And then, of course, a lot of them now, move their product from just skits alone to actually doing real comedy, and having events, live shows, and all of that as well. So it's a huge, and some of them have also gone into movie acting as well. So it's a huge industry. It's a place where IP plays a huge role. Yeah, of course, there are some teething issues, and I think Rebecca teed up some of the issues very well. So for instance, these guys just grab people's music and put in their skits. So what's supposed to happen there? They're supposed to pay royalty. Of course, like Rebecca rightly said, some of them want to hide under the guise of, look, this is just parody. But it's not, because I mean, you are doing it for commercial purpose, so you should pay royalties to the owners. I'm aware that YouTube currently and some of the social media platforms are setting up a monetization scheme where you don't even have to make a claim. Once the algorithms, the artificial intelligence algorithms of those platforms notices that your music has been played in the middle of a skit, then automatically some form of royalty is deducted from the skit maker and paid to you, the owner of that IP, provided of course you have an account, a monetization account with the relevant platform, like a Google AdSense kind of account. So that's a clever way to ensure that we minimize the amount of infringement on other people's works that some of these kit makers are currently doing. So it's a huge and interesting area. And thanks to the three ladies for the excellent presentation. So thank you, and back to you, Daniel.
Oh, thank you so much. Very deep and in-depth contribution. Thank you, sir, for always feeding us with your wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much, sir. So I would also want to call Mr. Folarin, sir, and one of our mentors too, who has always been there for us, to also contribute on the three presentations. So over to you, sir, Mr. Folarin, sir. I wouldn't know if...
Okay, I just realized that Mr. Folarin is not around. So I guess maybe his internet went off, but he might be coming back soon. But before he comes back, let me just say something about the employer and the employer. One of the things that I noticed is that maybe for startups, by the time they start their business, they might have not um, given an agreement to their employee. But after a while, they now see that they need to give them one, but they're already familiar with them. And since they are familiar, they now find it hard to bring out that agreement at that point because they will feel like, oh, this is now my friend and all that. But it's important for everyone to know that it's better to have an agreement even with your friend, so that by the time there's an issue, you can have something to fall back on, because your client list, your trade secrets, etc. So it's important that those things are pinned down so that where there's an issue, you can have something to fall back on. Secondly, I'll also talk about what Rebecca presented on, which had to do with skits and music and all that. So as Mr. Marx said, as long as those songs have a fingerprint, so through the aggregators for digital download or distribution, they give you codes that are unique to your song. So if those codes are unique to your songs, whenever they are used, so um, for you to understand what I'm saying, go to Lassisi's page, go to Worry Picking, as in just go to anybody that uses another person's song. When you click on it, you will see this song used, this song used, this song used. You would also see um, royalty provider, you see BMI, you see ASCAP, you see the rest. The reason why you see those things are because they have been registered with the royalty providers and they have a fingerprint also. So whether you ask them or you don't ask them, once you use their work, they will automatically monetize it and take the royalties for those portions of the song that you use and give it to those people. Then there's something called the synchronization license. That's the license that is given when a song is to be used in a moving picture. So for people who are doing skits, it's important that they get a synchronization license. That license will be gotten from both the composer and the record producer for the master side. So they'll get both of them, and that is what they're supposed to use to be able to legally use that. Thank you very much. So Mr. Folarin is back. You can take over.
Okay, welcome back, Mr. Folarin. Thank you so much, ma, for that contribution. Very insightful, ma. Thank you so much, ma. So Mr. Folarin is back. So Mr. Folarin, sir, I believe you have one or two things to say as regards the presentations. So, sir, please, can you kindly make your contribution, sir? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for doing such a fantastic job. I must say, well done to everybody, to all the presenters, Rebecca, Sewese, Don, the fantastic stuff. And Juliana, again, kudos to you for putting this together and for leading the charge. And of course, my my Oga Max. I salute you, sir. We'll meet in that usual place. Yeah, I think very interesting topics, very lovely, very topical topics. And I think these are conversations that people aren't having now. IP in the workplace, the implication of skits and copyright infringement, and then of course the use of what's it called, sound recordings and video works. Video sound recordings in social media skits, advertising, and IP. I was recently I was reading a study. No, it was a book, an article online. There's actually a section of, there was it was an event. Sorry about that. It was an event, an AFCON event, IP and advertising. But I think all this just shows that content creation, is the way to go. The world is all about content creation now, and content is king, or the content maker is king or queen. Okay, you can change it. The content maker is king, or queen. And what this means is it shows that there is actually a future for those of us who are practicing as IP lawyers or entertainment lawyers or copyright lawyers. There is a future somewhere. I think in Nigeria we should dig deep. That's why I said these topics are very interesting. I once had the opportunity to speak to a church, and I told them that performing Kirk Franklin songs during special number is copyright infringement. And they were all like, huh? Is he not a Christian? But the truth is that we should have some of these conversations, because if we don't understand what it means to use somebody else's property, we would not value, or we would never really get to a point where we can harness the true value of intellectual property. And I think Juliana has done justice to the response on what's it called, on the musical aspects of the using musical works. I think in skits. I think that's also an interesting conversation. I think the parody exception extends beyond. I think it does extend significantly. I think there's something social media, especially if you go to apps like Instagram. It's like everybody on Instagram is a comedian. Just the other day, I saw some two girls doing a TikTok dance, and an Okada almost hit them in Abuja here by Idu, the railway station. Yeah, and they were doing this dance, and they didn't even shift. And I'm sure the Okada guy must have been like, "It's not do these people now," But everybody's looking for that viral moment, and of course they got views, But they were dancing to they were performing to somebody's music, So there's that. It's a very interesting phenomenon, because when your music goes viral on TikTok, then it often translates to, don't leave yet, we have a meeting. It often translates short meeting. Sorry about that. When your video goes viral on TikTok, translates to streams, to more streams, which translates to more revenue. So it's like this weird interaction between some kind of publicity that is required, that is dependent on use, or mass use, but non-commercial use, if you may. But can we also say that when a TikToker uses another person's, or when an influencer uses somebody's work, is that non-commercial use? Because the influencer is using it to create or to generate some kind of capital, even if it's social capital. So I think these are conversations that we really need to have, going forward. But I don't think it's I think it's too early for us to have regulators jump in, because we had that. I mean, that was essentially the substratum of the conversation on crypto and blockchain. I think our regulators are, they're not the smartest people in the room, and I say that with due respect to regulators. The smartest people in the room are often the people in the field. I don't even think we lawyers are the smartest people in the room. It's often the people who are doing the work. So most times it's always advisable to have the people who are in industry actually drive regulation or policy. So I don't think it might be a good idea to push regulation or policy regulation at some of these new areas, because we're still trying to understand how it impacts, how our lives are being impacted on a daily basis, and so on and so forth. But one can't, I mean, it's very, one cannot take away from the fact that these are conversations that we need to have. Your perspectives, Dawn, Rebecca, say fantastic perspectives. I think we should dig deeper. And I think somehow, I think we should start looking at the way of testing some of these cases, in court, so that we can deepen our jurisprudence at the very least. But well done once again, fantastic stuff, good stuff. My approach to, I don't know, I can't say this many times, but I said this, I've had cause to say this a couple of times in a few fora recently. You can't ban Twitter because there's no law restricting people from using Twitter. Just apply that logic to crypto, and to every other thing. You can't ban what you don't have the power to regulate. You cannot ban something that has not been banned by law. And I think that for me is the attitude that the Nigerians should adopt, because it is in the nature of the executive to overstretch or overreach. But we should understand that every time the executive overreaches, it's always at the expense or at the cost of individual freedoms and liberties. So thank you very much, guys, for having me. I'm sorry, I think internet is off and on. See part of what we're talking about. Instead of NCC to focus on quality of service, they are looking for what is not lost, looking for how to increase fees here and there. Thank you, Joe. Well done, guys.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the wonderful contribution. I mean, we learned a lot. For me personally, I've learned a lot from everything, from the guest mentors, from our mentors, from our hosts, and my fellow mentees. Thank you. I really don't know. I think, I don't know. I think we'll be having our announcements. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Daniel, for an amazing moderation today. Thank you, Mr. Folarin. Thank you, Mr. Marx. Thank you for always coming and always giving us knowledgeable insights into the presentations. Thank you to Ina and to Senator for coming also. Thank you to the mentees. Thank you for submitting your reports. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying. I hope that you're actually learning stuff and that it's very profitable to you. So for next week, we'll be having the person in charge of WIPO Nigeria come to talk to us about traditional knowledge. So I would advise that instead of writing your reports on maybe a different topic, try to write on traditional knowledge and cultural expression, so that by the time you come and present on it, he can improve on that presentation. So I challenge everyone here to try and read up on traditional knowledge and cultural expression, so that by next week Friday, when Mr. Toby Mundi is here, we can present that topic and he can expand on it better. Thank you so much. Have an amazing weekend. And thank you, Daniel, again. Thank you, Benis, too, for joining us. I hope that you were able to also pick something today. And I want to also thank you for your moderation last week, Friday, too. It was amazing. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, Ma. Bye.
Bye.